Welcome to the People Leaders Podcast, the audio resource for managers and business leaders creating high-performing teams. Join leadership and team development experts Jan and Michelle Turkelson each week as they explore both subjects from every angle. Through practical tips, valuable insights, and compelling interviews with leadership experts around the world, you'll learn how to bring out the best in your staff and how to give your best as a leader.
So, Michelle, another podcast.
That's right. Looking forward to this one, Jan, because today we're going to help people create their own personal playbook.
Now, what's that?
What you may be asking, what is a personal playbook, Jan?
I think it's a really good resource or tool that people in leadership can use to refocus their efforts. Mm-hmm. So when you've just come out of a project or when you're going into a project, when you've been focusing on a particular task and you want to get back on track and refocus your efforts in leading your team and being a purposeful leader, I think this is a really good reflection tool to use.
And what I like about it is that it's a series of questions that can be documented all in one place. It's the who, what, where, when, how of my development, either as a leader or as an individual. That's why I particularly like the flexibility around a personal playbook, because people leaders can use it and people within teams can use it.
Yeah.
So let's start off with...
And the other thing is that you can use it as a communication tool. Like you can actually share your priorities and your commitments with your team or with a colleague or...
Oh, we could share playbooks.
Yeah.
So the first area, Jan, what's the first area in the playbook?
Who?
Yeah.
So who are the people that rely on me? And these are the people who rely on you, such as team members, your manager, key stakeholders. And the intention of this question is to see if you are keeping them updated, in the loop, on progress that they would be interested in. Mm-hmm. So perhaps they can give you feedback about how you're supporting them or what it is they want more of or less of. So the first one is the who. And the next part of that is the people who I rely on. So who are the people, team members, manager and stakeholders, that you actually rely on? And how are you creating opportunities that they can interact with you? How you can focus on challenges and solutions so they can give you feedback, and how, again, you can be more effective.
And it's almost like, so how can I help them help me? That is the sort of underlying question here in terms of looking at people that I rely on. So the next section is the what. And the what is looking at, so what are my priorities? What are the key areas that I could or should or am focusing on over the next quarter, over the next year, or you could even chunk it down over the next 6 weeks. And so the idea is, and this is how you know if you're being effective, like if I was to ask you, what are your top 3 priorities at the moment? And somebody goes, bang, bang, bang. Okay, we know that they're switched on. So warning everybody, if you've been coached by us, you know, it really is important for you to know what your top 3 priorities are.
And are your priorities about a doing activity, or is it high level, like elevated? So is it developing your people? That could be a key priority. Is it completing a project, or is it something else? So just look at what level
the balance,
you're focusing on, you know, the task, the people, and perhaps future or career.
Yeah. And now the next area is, so what are my manager's top 3 priorities for the same period? And you would expect somebody who is switched on to know what their manager's top 3 priorities are. So Jan, what if they don't know their manager's top 3 priorities? What would we always suggest?
Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because again, these are the things that you want to be having your one-on-one catch-ups with to make them interesting for both people. Yeah. Because if you know what's a priority for your manager, then you understand what their hotspots are and how you can, you know, support and assist And pave the way.
And even better, so what are your ask your manager, what are your managers talking about?
Yeah, that's right.
And an effective organisation and team will be able to see that sort of red thread go through each of those leaders' priorities.
That's right, because your organisation's, top 3 priorities is important to know as well, because for some, it's around cash collection. For some organisations, for some, it's around tying up, the year end or the quarter. It could be anything, but have a priority. Like, it would be good to have an organisational priority, because focus is such a good way of managing your energy. When you have a clear focus, then you have direction and you can take action that's more effective.
So understanding what your organisation's top 3 priorities are. The projects that I'm responsible for. Are there any projects that I know I need to deliver? So it can be something very small that only takes 4 weeks, but you are responsible for. It could be sending out a survey or, collecting or processing. It could be anything. But do you know what those projects are that you're responsible for, and what are you doing about it?
Good. And the next part of that what is the processes that you're responsible for. So the idea is to list the processes that are unique to your team. And a process is something that happens regularly to keep things moving forward. It's like a series of actions or steps that are in order to achieve a particular end, because we all have processes in our teams that we are responsible for. And if you can name them and articulate them, it just shows that level of understanding around where your team fits into the organisation. And you'd be surprised at how many processes as a manager you are responsible for. Like, there is a process for decision making and conflict resolution and running performance
team meetings.
management. That's kind of like everything is a bit of a process.
Top one is the performance management one. So the next area is the when. So the milestones that I've set for each of my priorities and projects. What are the dates that I have set for each of those priorities in terms of when I need to have achieved them? And the idea that we've sort of split this out into a separate area is so that you can start to see, oh, wow, I do have a couple of my milestones or priorities landing in the month of June, or they are spread out evenly. Yes, that's good. I can manage my resources effectively.
That's right. And a milestone will usually have a specific date, and it'll usually include a report or something upon a completion of something, a process and a celebration. And it is so important. I remember when someone said it's really important to celebrate your milestones. Yeah, but I just want to get things done. I tell you what, the amount of energy that you can generate from celebrating a milestone, and even if it's like a pat on the back or recognition or just stop and go, yeah, that was good, I'm on to the next thing. There is something that happens in your mental psyche when you can kind of tick something off in a phased approach or a step-by-step approach.
And it's almost like an organised way to affirm or acknowledge people. Without actually saying, oh, I'm going to affirm and acknowledge you. You actually say, well, this milestone has been achieved, and then you think about, so who are the people that have been involved in that? Let's do something. Let's just acknowledge that. Have a morning tea, like you said, an email, pat on the back. Just take some time out to acknowledge that.
Good. All right, so as we're going through the who, what, when, how, why process, start to think about the answers to these questions. Yeah. So you may not be in a position that you want to craft a playbook and write it down, but just start to reflect on some of these things that we're talking about, because you're always getting whispers, or you're always getting insights, but sometimes we just don't necessarily act upon them because we get really busy. So the next part is the how. This is the how question. And here we're looking at the key measures that you're reporting on and how you are reporting on them, on those key measures. And a measure is usually around a specific number. It's reported on a specific recurring date, which usually, again, includes a report or a comparison against a target. You know, are you on track? Are you off track? And it could be an opinion or a positive action.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we can measure anything. And the key to measurement is just agreeing that this is a measure that we are going to use to determine whether we're hitting the mark or not hitting the mark. So one is to agree what the measure is, and then to be consistent about the tool that you're using in order to measure that.
Yeah, and are you confident in that measurement? Because a lot of people, when we talk about, performance management, so even in not just people, but just in a task or a process, is that, we've got lots of things, a lot of data that we can use. However, you need to be confident in the information that you're using that will allow you to have a good outcome.
Yeah, so what are the key measures? And you know what? If you don't have any key measures, then I would start thinking about putting some in, because how do you know you're improving unless you're using some sort of marker in time in order to measure that again?
So, for example, I had a coaching session today, and the issue was around workload. An incredibly competent person, however, took on a lot of the tasks. So part of the key measures was to list 10 things that they do and to delegate 10%. So delegate one of those things in 1 week. In 3 weeks, delegate 3 of those things, and within a certain amount of time they would have delegated 30 to 40% of what's already on them. So again, there is a measurement.
Great.
Okay, the next question is the big why, and this is talking about, when we're talking about our playbook, it's, like what type of or why do you want to lead, and what is your leadership purpose? So my personal leadership purpose is and it could be to be an authentic leader that develops people, that has a reputation, that they get things done on time.
Now, and another example of a personal leadership purpose statement for a team member could be to be seen as a productive, cooperative, competent
contributor.
Contributor or member of this team. For other people, it's to be seen as a great problem solver and troubleshooter. So have a think. Another way to flip that in terms of, I don't know how to even write a purpose statement. What do you want people to say about you?
That's
start
right.
with that.
That's right.
Just start with that.
Yeah, because what you're doing is that you're actually setting up a criteria for yourself, because you know when it is that you're on track or off track. So if a criteria for you is to be a leader who develops other people, so what are you actually doing in that space, and how do you measure that? Is it development plans? Is it at the end of 12 months, every person in my group has increased their skill or competency in this area by a certain percentage or whatever. Okay, so the why is around my personal leadership statement, or you could have a look at my team's purpose statement. And we have talked about our team purpose statement, what you do for whom and why, what is the value that you contribute, what are the benefits of people who are engaging in your team get from you? Like, what do you do?
That's right. And it is like it's a great team building activity, actually. Let's have a crack at developing a team purpose statement.
Why? So why? Why would we do that? If someone in the team says, why would we do that?
Okay. Well, for a start, it's good for when new people come into the team, then they get a really clear indication about what we do for whom and why. For us, it re-clarifies to us, so that it's an interesting exercise, because if you think our purpose statement is one thing and somebody thinks our purpose statement is something else, we need to have a conversation and figure out, okay, why is there a disconnection here?
That's right. And it helps people clarify priorities, because then I know what are we here to do? Who are we here to benefit?
It's your compass, it's your guiding post, your team purpose statement.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And
keeps you honest.
That's right. But even for individuals, so even if we're just stepping out of the workplace, if I know what floats my boat, what's really important to me, then I know some of the ways in which I make decisions can be based around those things, and it just allows us to be fully engaged in whatever it is that we're doing.
That's right. So moving on, let's have a look at, so the next area looks at me, my personal well-being, and it's looking at, so what are my top 2 priorities and actions that I'm going to take for my emotional, mental and physical health? And what are they? What is a mental a strategy to build your mental resilience that you could take that would have the biggest impact on your performance? Is it doing a mindfulness activity, every day? Is it reading something that you enjoy? Is it keeping a journal? It's, what are some of those things that you're doing in order to increase your resilience in both the mental, emotional and physical realms?
Yeah. So we did a team session today where we actually talked about physical, mental and emotional resilience in people, and we talked about what those areas are. And I suppose the one thing that I would want to share with people is that there is one resource that will create the biggest impact for everyone if they did it well, and that's breathing.
Yeah.
And that's something that everyone can do. Like good diaphragmatic breathing, which massages all the internal organs. It's something that you can do in the lift, going from meeting to meeting. And so, Michelle, if I was to ask you, what are 2 things that are your priority at the moment in that realm of resilience or well-being that you're focusing on?
Okay, so physically it's definitely to have more water.
Right.
That is something that I know would have a big impact, increasing my hydration levels. And in terms of the mental, it's reading something every day. It's reading something to increase my knowledge in the areas that I work in.
Yeah.
Than mine.
So mine is breathing, being more mindful in my breathing. So when people sigh, because we were talking about this the other day, so when people sigh or yawn, we see it as, they're getting bored or whatever. But what it is, it's actually the body resetting itself, and be okay with that. So I'm being more mindful about deep diaphragmatic breathing. And the other thing that I'm doing, which I suppose is more in the mental, is in the physical realm too, is whenever I have a shower, the last 30 seconds or whatever, I have a cold shower.
I'm doing that lately too.
Yeah,
that is bizarre.
yeah, and it's really good for stimulation. Because I've done some breathing workshops recently, and then we finished with an ice bath for 3 minutes, which really was a very interesting process as well. However, there is some really good physical benefits for doing that, and so that's something that we can also practice. I know it's easy to do in summer. I don't know how I'm going to do in winter, but they're the things that I'm playing with at the moment.
Yeah, it's easy to do in Byron Bay, isn't it?
True. Okay.
The next, what causes me the greatest challenges at work? So can you name them? Can you name? It might be people actually, but what are the biggest challenges that I have at work at the moment, and just document it or name it.
So some of the things that we're finding with our clients is workload, challenges with technology, and then challenges with people who are different personality styles to them, and taking things personally.
That's right. And then the next, this is what I plan to do moving forward to support my well-being. So what am I doing? What am I going to do in order to support my well-being? What are the things that I can do that are preventative, so that are more longer term? So that could be the journaling. And then what can I do in situ when it's happening that I can do to support my well-being? Is it my self-talk or my breathing? What are some of those things that I can start to play with, really?
Good. And the final question is the key personality strength I plan to leverage.
Great.
And again, when we talk about leverage, really it's just use
more often.
And use more consciously, because, so for example, if you are a person who is a connector, who are you connecting with? Are you connecting some person with another in an organisation because it's going to benefit them, not you, but it's going to benefit them. And the strength could be your ability to evaluate or critique. So could you offer support to a graduate or a newbie who are actually learning the ropes?
Yeah, writing reports. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so wrapping up, is there one thing that you could progress on. And whenever we talk about change, it is really important to just take it lightly, just take the next most logical step, the path of least resistance in creating and developing growth in your life. And we really encourage you to, do something different, because
that's right. And that's right. And that's how you'll do it, is by taking all of this or some of this and doing something with it. Okay, over for now. Bye.
Ciao.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the People Leaders Podcast. For show notes and other resources, please visit us at peopleleaderspodcast.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe for future episodes so you can continue your own leadership journey. And please be sure to share this and other episodes with your friends and colleagues. The People Leaders Podcast is brought to you by the Experts on Air Podcast Network.